We're now.
No. Not at all. I'm very comfortable.
Yeah, really.
Huh? What's up? You're thinking of it's been time. And the baby. I'm gonna pop in. You gotta have something. You gotta have coffee. I'll pop in on it. It's fine.
Oh, yeah. No, sir. Okay, so we're in a flurry. I forgot
I don't have it on my phone. It's still on. It's on now. Is it? Okay. Yeah, I thought the red was all the way around.
Red is on, green is, it's not, it's ready.
But that's just.
He's recording right now.
Thank you. Another.
Yeah, this is the most for a management meeting in forever.
That's what I just said.
Holy cow.
We hope this is a tradition. I'd rather y'all show up and have to talk again.
Is everybody in through?
I stopped up there at 5:30 or so and asked. And I was last week. He took that too. Okay, let's get going. Joe Williams. You by yourself?
She's up there.
You didn't bring your.
If I need Jolie, she's up there. So, Joe Williams. Just give you a quick update on the fitness center. We'll have a color submitted for the siding soon.
I'm sorry.
The color. Did I say color?
Color.
Color of the siding.
Red, white, blue.
I'm sorry.
We're working on get that enclosed within the month. I think we're gonna start on that. We're gonna dig a trench for the gutters to the low pond and the trench out back. So that work's gonna be taking place soon. What else we got going on? We got the, oh, and I'll be sending colors for that. There's really not much more updates. We've got a way we can do all the siding and leave it where we can, the car washes we can attach later. We can continue progress now. So we're looking at starting on the siding in a month. Because to do the siding correctly, I need to know what's going to happen to the car washes with the roofs, the sidings.
Well, it's staying.
Well, right, but to do the new siding right, we have to do the car washes at the same time.
Correct.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, that's all we have to do.
Okay. So you're not, at the moment, you're not planning on spending any money for at least 30 days or so?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No. We actually talked about the opposite, actually. Not spending money at all.
That would, yes, we would appreciate that right now.
Yep.
Because that, as you know, that fund is somewhat underfunded.
Yeah.
So if,
Well, 90% of what we've done is done by donation money so far. So, I mean, it's all been by donated, we've worked with fundraisers and 5Ks and lake runs and stuff like that.
right, okay.
That's it, I'm just quick up.
Do we need to meet with you down there to talk about
Yeah, we do.
the part of the car wash bays or whatever?
Yeah, let's meet.
Okay,
We'll
well,
set it.
set that up and we'll meet you down
We
there.
got like a month. I
Okay.
think we're scheduled for like a month out. I gotta get the college submitted and approved. But yeah, that's it.
Joe, what was the amenities amount last year spent by the town there?
19 to 20,000, right around there.
20, okay.
Amenities money, yeah.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to.
And I'm off a little bit, it's right in there. The money's ladies upstairs, so.
Okay, and we recognize that.
Yeah. I don't have any papers up.
Okay.
But that's it, just a quick update.
Hey, thanks for the updates.
Let's meet and we'll go over.
Yeah,
Progress is gonna start happening, we're gonna get
we
closer.
kind of need to make it, you know, you're the one that works full-time out of the hills, so let us know when you can meet with us, and
Okay,
Randy and I'll fit it into our schedule, meet you down there.
okay, I'll email you guys. Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks. Excellent.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Car wash bays at the fitness center.
Yeah,
That's what he was talking about.
that's what he's,
We're not turning them into car washes.
no, they were the old car wash.
Okay, so we're on the air, okay, so there's people out there just heard car washes there, and everybody's going, what?
The old car wash bays at the Panacea building, which haven't been car wash bays since before Pluto was a pup.
In fact, we took out all the car wash based stuff.
In fact, I'm gonna bet.
Thank you for the clarification.
Well, look, there's nobody here that remembers when there was car wash bays there. I'm sorry.
We're looking at closing them in.
Okay.
And making it, you know, the building's gonna be new, we need that to look new as well.
The
Sometimes
option,
people believe some things that they don't hear, so I want to make sure that it was clear on the car wash, that our new car wash is going on.
yes, those are, yes, okay.
Thank you.
I'm set on that. All right, you want to cover the numbers?
Yeah, capital fund total is 145,696. Depreciation fund total is $87,020. Delinquencies in December were 18,502. They went up in January to 24,801. We've already got several people that's paid, and so that's a good thing. Road delinquencies were $2,501 in December. They went up a little bit to $2,570, just simply because of late fees. Popular Bank, we have the $101,294, which was the collateral that we put in originally. The dam repair checking account is $164,667 for a total of $265,961.
Can I just say one thing, Randy?
Yeah.
For those of you, since we have so many people here, many who are new, the delinquency totals is not the delinquency that occurred within that month. That's an accumulated delinquency of really not many people in the club that is built up over time. We aggressively go after all of those accounts and even to the point of foreclosure. But that's so out of all 800 or 740 members, that's the total amount of delinquency of all of those accounts. So, and it's not in each individual month, it would only be increasing usually by the $170 that they would have to pay.
It is also considerably less than what it was when Randy started collecting it years ago. It used to range in the $200,000 to $300,000 range.
Much higher.
And he's on it like a dog on a bone, and and he needs to be commended for it, because they do a great job. Yeah, Lori?
For those who opted for the minimum assessment on the dam, when is that over?
1 year from May.
Yeah.
Oh, it's still got another year.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
May of 21.
Okay.
May 20, we're just finishing up the 4th year, Lord.
Okay.
I think it's like $1,200 is left.
Oh, they paid it off.
If they can pay it off.
$72 a month or whatever, yeah.
Right,
About that.
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay. Do we want to cover the allocation since there was some progress made on it?
Yeah, we were able to pay 2 months worth of amenities fund
In 1 month?
and 1 month of employee insurance fund.
Sweet. So that's 27, 33,000 round figure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Leaves us about 22,000.
Okay.
Jim, can I request that report be given to the board each month so that they can see what was funded and what was not funded? Because it's hard, even with the new operating thing, to get a sense of what has been funded, and that would keep the board abreast so they didn't get a surprise.
Well, okay, yeah. Shouldn't be a surprise anyways, but yes. We will bring it. Okay, that covers that. News and notes, brewed beer costs.
I was asked to I mean, I did this, in 2014, about 5 years ago, to, bring back, how much it costs, per gallon, per batch, to brew our beer. And what I did was, which I didn't do before, what I did this time was to I didn't add in our liquor license before. And what I did with that, because we do approximately 4 batches a year, and so I divided our total for our liquor license is $5,406 a year. And so I divided that by 4 batches. And our cost, and I know you folks that buy the growlers and you get them filled up for $10, our cost for a gallon of beer is $12.36. So we're losing $2.36 for each growler of beer that we sell. Now, not the growlers, I didn't add that in, but I'm adding in the beer.
Well, growler's not a gallon.
It's 128 ounces, yeah. Yeah.
Mine's not. You say closer to half gallon.
That's what Brandon told me. Oh, okay, well, then.
Let me ask you a question. So you're taking our total cost for the license, our liquor license for 12 months and applying it
Per batch,
specifically to the beer?
yes.
Okay, do you think that's really fair?
How would you
I don't know.
divide it any other way?
Well, 'cause
I mean, I understand you got liquor.
Yeah, you gotta
You
get
got
the
the percentage between the two and.
Yeah, I think we'll have to look at the percentage of sales
Mull
by.
that over.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we'll have to think about that, but I appreciate the fact you did all this work. What did it come down to for what's a glass of lager? 12 ounces?
16?
16 ounces.
Let's see, I've got that. It is 0.0785 per ounce times 16, so whatever that is, I don't know.
What's 12 and a half, that'd be 12 and a half.
Do what?
Well, it's 70% of 16.
Okay.
Yeah,
It would be a little over 3/4.
And Kmart Blue Light Special too. Rain Man.
Oh, no. What is the capacity of a batch?
a batch is 295 gallons. A batch is 9.5 barrels, which is 295 gallons in a batch. Now, keep in mind also that we have 2 different size kegs. We've got a 15.5 keg and a 13.4 keg. So,
What's the cost per batch then?
the cost per batch is, let's see, $2,294 per batch. $2,294 per batch. That includes,
And that's how many gallons?
295 gallons. That includes the brewer's fee, $7 per keg, for keg cleaning, materials. So 7 times 22 kegs in a batch. $620 for our materials, $20 for CO2 tank.
I get $7.78 a gallon.
Okay?
So we need to,
Yeah.
okay, we need to look at the application of license fees and that sort of thing and across the board, because we're getting ready to adjust
Pricing anyways. Yeah.
at the, well, both places,
Yeah.
but mainly the clubhouse.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah.
Bora Hill Road Sediment Trap Engineering, Lakes volunteered to pay, if I remember right, the estimate for 2LMN was right at 10 grand.
10,250.
All right, Sue got the Lakes Committee to agree to pay 5,000 of that. So, we would be out $5,250 or whatever if we go ahead with it. We don't have the funds to do the construction when we get the results back, but when we get the results back, we'll basically have construction plans in it, and there is the possibility that our own maintenance people will be able to handle the construction. And if they can, to where the labor would be our normal payroll, there's a distinct possibility that we could handle the concrete and gravel and that sort of thing in the budget.
So in the past, I heard discussions of, so our equipment isn't big enough to do the job, so we'd have to rent equipment, but use our labor.
Depends on what the construction, depends on what they come back with as a, here's the construction project, here's what all's involved.
$450.
If it can't be done with our backhoe, then obviously we go rent a Traco or whatever.
You know, when I buy 10 of them,
But the thing is, from my point, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what it's gonna cost or what the construction plan is gonna look like until we spend the $5,000 in Lake's money and $5,250 or whatever of our money to get a plan so that we can then attempt to budget to fix that, that particular cove, which is silting in at an extremely fast rate. And then, like we discussed a meeting or two ago, that would give us kind of a track to run on for a couple other codes that are gonna need addressed. So, I'm putting it out there.
Are we allowed to make comments? Or is this?
Certainly.
Do I need to come to the mic?
No,
Okay.
I'm not as formal as the
Okay,
last
that's okay.
guy.
I just have a question about that. With this, with L&M, is that the name of the company?
2LNM.
2LM.
LNM.
Okay, how long is the process to get the report?
It's fairly quick.
It's fairly quick.
We worked with the engineer, one of the reasons we've gone back to 2LMN.
Right, we've
The
worked with.
reason we've been, they have been working with us for probably 25 years. And they have a fairly good knowledge of the lake, and they've signed the sediment trap that you currently see in the North Park area. They were involved with us as well. So the young woman who works for them, who worked with us on the project, came out, visited. She'd already done some preliminary calculations on what it would look like. And so essentially what she would do is have a surveyor come in and estimate the amount of water that would come in through that on a, given various meteorological tables, and then based upon that would design a structure for us, which she's done. That's her business.
The reason I ask how long it would take, if it's a report that can be done fairly quickly, as a member, I look at that and I say $5,000 spent there right at this time on something that we don't know when we'll be able to afford seems, is concerning, because that would pay a security guard's salary for X amount of time. So are we appropriating the funds in the right place?
Well,
That's my only concern about that.
another way to look at it is if we get the survey back quick enough, the results of the cost results of that survey could be included in the assessment increase that we asked for.
Okay.
The problem is,
We don't know what we don't know.
yeah, that's, you're spending $5,000
Yeah.
or $10,000 total to get answers on what it's gonna do to your budget going forward.
Yeah.
If we tabled it November-ish.
Yeah.
We've tabled it a couple months. We can table it. I mean,
This is something that came up in our meeting on Sunday. Someone voiced that concern over the last couple meetings, it being brought up, and someone mentioned that the Lakes Committee was willing to participate in the cost of it. Some of the feedback that we received was, why would we do this if we can't afford to build the silt trap at this time? Why wouldn't we appropriate that funds on the continuing operation of what we do?
It's exactly what we've said for 3 months. So we agree with you.
So the only thing that's really changed since the last meeting, Dave, is that Lakes has committed $5,000, so I'm throwing it back out, and there's 4 of us, and, what do you think, Dan?
How long is it, will the pricing stay stable for a while?
From 2LNN? I would think so.
It was 3 months, but I'm sure it wouldn't.
Yeah. So yeah, probably. So
Right, I mean, no, but the quote was, I think, for 3 months, so.
What is your assessment? That they're likely to raise it?
I don't think so. I don't think I lost it either. Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, I say delay.
Okay,
Table. I think we still table it this time.
okay.
But it's good to be brought up back in November, it was real favorable, and I got to thinking about it. I guess my conscience got a little bit, and we discussed it. I think everybody felt that way. But the realization everybody needs to remember too is, if we don't do something with the amount of sediment that's going into the lake, the people that have docks at the north end soon won't be able to float boats in there, because that level of the water there, and we all know how much rain we had over the last year, it's getting very, very shallow. And if we don't put a stop to this, our lake's just gonna keep shrinking.
Well,
So we've gotta keep this in front
That's
of
a
everybody.
consensus.
and then you have an added cost of having to dredge the lake.
Exactly.
So sometimes tabling it isn't the best way to go if it's gonna ultimately cost you more in the long run.
The good
That's
news
just,
is that valley there that it comes in, that's a rain, you get this out with a rain. The other thing that we had at North Park, that had to be done because that's the main feature of the lake. That's a creek that turns into a raging river over nothing, any kind of weather event. And that would cause a demo cell in the north end. This thing by Blankenships, it's on and off again. It's something we could probably, it's a maintenance issue for sure that needs to be dealt with, because all the other inlets have some kind of a holdback that private members have put in.
Yeah.
They're digging out their own stuff. But that's a big valley, and when it comes in there, it's good, but it's not as frequent and as much of a mess as the two converging rivers that come in at the North Park.
And it actually is on club land as well. It's not
And,
an
you know, just to
individual.
keep the peace, I would put it off for a year until we get from Sesame Creek. We'll just keep the money.
Well, we'll table it at least until
Yeah.
we'll table it till the last meeting in February. I don't wanna bring it up at the next meeting, because
Yes, sir.
we'll do the last meeting. Okay, discussion items, 2020 budget.
You wanna talk about that more?
I don't know, do you wanna talk about that, or?
I think that actually, we have discussed it, and we've discussed it in open meeting with everybody. We've even had a couple people that have attempted to answer questions on Facebook. That's a lot of fun, but I don't think there's anything else to discuss on it at this time.
This next issue, I was approached by a company, from out of Worthington, about, a possible natural gas for Hideaway Hills. He sent me a letter. I sent that letter on to our, Utilities Committee Chairperson, Eric Boysko, who's here tonight. He talked to this gentleman also, and I would like him to inform us on what came out of this conversation. If you would, please, Eric.
Can everybody hear me if I sit down? So I
Yeah.
can look at my notes and give you good information. Before that, about a month ago, I started working with the Utilities Committee and see what it would cost. South Central's gonna start burying the lines. What it would cost when South Central does an open cut to put in gas. And maybe through making calls with Columbia Gas that this precipitated. I asked him, but he didn't give me a direct answer. So let me tell you what the Columbia Gas study came out, because it'll directly influence what the A1 numbers are. To get Columbia Gas is about 5 miles away. To go to the front gate, it would be the closest one, would cost $800,000. They have a tariff rate of $32 a foot. We have 31 miles of roads, add 31 miles of road. Columbia Gas doesn't care if we drop the line in via an open cut or they have to dig their own line through granite. It's the same tariff rate and they won't make any modifications to that. I know it's silly. It's my understanding, and I've got a pretty good, that if South Central does an open cut, which they're going to start in May, the gas line only has to be 12 inches away. So that's why I started looking into it, because it seems like it's a good opportunity. The problem is Columbia Gas isn't the answer, because it's gonna cost $5 million, $5.24 million for 31 miles of road. So the 5 miles gave you sort of $6 million. And that would have to be paid upfront. They don't do a payment plan. So
We're a little short.
A1 reached out to Randy, and I've since spoken with them. They're a marketing company. They would work with financing. They would work over a period of up to 7 years. The problem with that is, there's more money in it. I don't know that, my own personal opinion, I don't know how it would ever get done with this same amount, with the dollars. It could be a little bit cheaper because we wouldn't be able to deal with the tariff rate, because it couldn't be dropped in 12 inches. When it goes in the house, it's gotta be 3 feet away. But, the problem with any other company coming in, even though they're financing it, is we're subject to their rate versus.
Right.
So, I don't wanna be glued. I certainly think when there's an open cut in there and it's gonna be available, it seems like there should be other options. The other thing that I was looking into, and will look into, is, I'm gonna use my street as an example, Shawnee. Could Shawnee put a line in? Well, the open cut could be open for months for South Central. So could, again, this is all hypothetical, but could people that live on Shawnee say, yes, we want a gas line, we'll put a gas line in, and the cul-de-sac, for example, we'll put a holding tank in for a lesser rate. The problem with that is, if you don't get 90% of people that are willing to, those costs, then, if you get 50%, the line still goes in front, so it makes it difficult. So, unless somebody has an idea that say, hey, look at this, look at that, I certainly will, because when that line is open, something else can go on. Fiber can go in there, other things can go in there. That's, I think there's opportunity, and that's what kind of sparked this.
Is there any opportunity for public subsidies or?
The co-op is, I think, maybe what you're referring to, and when you co-op, then you get other people that want their
government grants.
Well, I haven't looked into government. I can certainly look into government grants. It's just, are you aware of any?
I'm not.
Okay, I can certainly look into it. Wouldn't take you that difficult to look for
community.
Through government grants to see that's out there.
Does your report include all the hookups and all that to homes, individual homes?
Columbia Gas will give you 100 foot free from the street to your home. If you're more than 100 foot, you go up the tariff rate. Thank you.
$32 a foot.
What's that?
32 a foot.
$32, tariff rate $32.04 a foot. But they'll give you 100 foot. So if your house is within 100 foot of, now if it's, if the main line goes across the street, then yeah.
That's based upon the distance you are from the line then?
Yes.
I'll just make a mention that when we lived up in Pickerington, they run a water line right out of my front yard. It still cost me $6,000.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Can I propose another question or comment? You know me. So with the open trenching of South Central coming in here, which we all agree is going to get these power lines down so we don't have the issues with the trees. But we have talked about at our meetings, we've talked about erosion into the lakes. Is South Central giving us any impact studies on the environment? How are they going to put this back? How are we going to control? Because they're going to be going up and down our terrain, and if these trenches are open and we get heavy rains like we did last year, which are going to happen sometime this year, are we going to have an erosion problem there? And have we talked to South Central about protecting our environment here?
We haven't talked
I
about
think
it at
we
all.
should bring that
Matter
up
of fact, I
because
wasn't aware that they were going to start.
we get these trenches dug here and they get pulled off somewhere else. It could be a problem for us.
To the point, I agree, and I think we should try again to bring them out, because we have asked them to come out and explain and dialogue with us, and they have not done. So
Yeah, the original, he called to educate some of you, the power goes down a lot here. That's not news to anybody, right? We tried to get South Central to come out and give us their 5-year plan and to end that, or at least reduce it by a lot. And they originally made an appointment a year or so ago.
canceled on the day.
Called that day and said they couldn't make it, and have basically refused to take Randy's calls ever since then. We do know that they have a plan, and actually I can show you some of the flags in here where they're going to start burying cable. They're gonna bury the main line that goes along the ridge from maintenance up to, here.
Bremen Hill.
Bremen Gate first, and, we need to get them back out here and talk to them about that sort of thing. But they've been kind of difficult to get to come around, so.
Just so you know, South Central is extremely difficult. I bet I'd call 20 people to get an answer. And even the questions that I've asked in May that they're going to start to sit down with utility group or sit down with a group, they're not ready yet. And I presented the most positive that, hey, use us as, get the word out, frequently ask questions, let us help you with this. And I'm not exactly sure why. He said we'll consider it in February, so I will certainly give advance notice when you come out and update.
Do they have a monthly meeting or anything that you could show up?
They have a board,
Yeah.
and I actually was angry enough at them one time. I said, would you send me the information for me to become a board member? And guess what? They never mailed it to me.
So you didn't get on the board?
Well, no, I mean, you have to go through an election process. I'm not joking. But they are.
To a point, we have a board rep that covers our area here. We need to research who that is, just like it would be a congressman or everybody else.
Yeah.
He's there as part of that group
Yep.
on our behalf. That's why he's elected. Maybe we should, not twist our arm and say a railroad, but we might be able to get a response out of that guy anyways, or person.
It's on their website where.
I've not seen it, and I bet I've talked to 5 different people, and I've even said I'll call you at home in the evening on voicemail messages, and just think I would get a response. So it is what it is. But I'm definitely, it's something that, it's I mean, May's pretty right around the corner. So
Just if you happen to get any sort of meeting, and we will also, please include us.
Absolutely.
And because we have interest too.
I can tell you right now that their plans are to start at the gate and go from the gate all the way up the main roads, past the lodge, past the last gate. And that will be phase 1.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah,
but other than that, they haven't shared anything else.
Yeah.
It's actually at the maintenance gate, up the road.
Oh, he told me security gate, but maybe not maintenance gate.
Yeah, because it's on that ridge.
Yeah.
It's if you look, it's where the big power lines go all the way from there up to the Bremen Gate along the ridge, kind of weaving, but that's what their plan is, the very first.
And he did say that open cut could be open as much as a year.
Be a problem.
Could be in the middle of our road, probably. I don't know.
Well, it's gonna have to cross somewhere. I think I know where.
Yeah, right to the gorge or clubhouse.
And just decided to go to the clubhouse. Okay, we'll try to get a meeting, and we'll include you if we get one, and if you get one, give us a call, and we'll confab with the people.
I think it's also a good comment to contact I think on the board was like 6 or so people, and get our representative if they don't answer.
If we can figure out who that is.
No, it's on their website. There's pictures of them all. I mean, I'll take it on to figure out who it is.
Okay.
We'll know before we leave tonight.
You're doing it.
Those of you looking, I'm not texting my wife, I'm actually looking at that information. We have it, we'll talk about it.
Okay, moving right along. Assessment increase. That's on there because tonight is when we've got to start the work of coming up with what we want to recommend to the board in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever it is. We've got to get if we want to get it on a ballot in May, we have to get it to the board in February. That gives us one more meeting after this to kind of finalize it. And on top of that, that MAG, Members Advocacy Group, wants to be, and I think it's a very good idea to include them, wants to be very involved in it because they're looking at a lot of the numbers. So they'd be involved in it from 2 standpoints. And Dave, you can jump in if I get something wrong here. They're looking at the numbers. They want to help us come to the conclusion of what we should ask for. And they're also looking at it from the educational process and how to present it when it's, when it's on the ballot, and, make sure that afterwards, we don't have one person or 20 people say, well, I didn't know, and well, I didn't understand that. Well, I don't want a bathroom down in maintenance, or, whatever, don't get off in the weeds kind of thing. They're gonna try to handle the education part of it. Is that fair?
Communication.
Communication, there you go.
Yeah. I mean,
Would they act as the 66 2/3?
I guess it would be similar to the committee.
So the calls and the.
Yeah, I believe yes. I don't want to speak for everyone, but that's
But
our
if you
goal.
could-
We have
if
some
you could
phone
check that
bank
out,
and
that would be great.
do a phone bank.
I kind of got the couple meetings I've been at, I got the impression that that's where it was going.
Yeah, that's my impression also, but just.
Cool. Yeah, Rich.
I want to thank you all. I apologize to those that I asked to get on the board or the management committee. I can't even say I understand what you're going through, because I don't think the dam assessment was near as tough as making cuts. That said, I've been wanting for the whole time since I've been off the management committee to increase revenues. That's what's needed. Dave Nitzel, as part of the MAG group, it really struck me when he said, this needs to be a stop the bleeding, almost to the point where I think that could be the motto. Stop the bleeding. Don't put any frills on it. I don't know what the committee's going to end up recommending, but I would say no frills, but be sure to have enough money to bring your funds up to date and cover operations for the year, at least without adding anything new.
Well, we'll take that under advisement. I think there's some things that, there might be a couple things that need to be included. There just are, but we're gonna work on that. The reason it's on there is basically to give everybody their homework assignment to, dig out the paperwork. And JJ doesn't have any, so I have to get him some. You don't either. You weren't on last time. Oh, you're.
Well, I was
yes, you were.
just kind of,
Look at what we, the numbers and the things we went for, and be prepared to get together, possibly even before the next meeting. And
That's what I would like to recommend, is that we have some offline meetings where we can work and
spreadsheet.
bring everybody else up to
I think
speed.
we need to, we don't want to waste time at the meeting.
How about everybody got their calendars?
Oh, yeah.
We'll just see if we can do that. I love planning more meetings.
Yeah, right.
Well, actually, if we want to stay on the rhythm of Tuesdays, I don't think there's anything scheduled for Tuesday, February 4th.
I'm good.
Dana?
I'm getting there.
Okay,
Sorry.
sorry.
What's food services?
Yeah. You can come?
No, I actually had a comment.
Well, well, I'm asking you, before I let you make a comment, can you come to,
February 4th.
February 4th, the budget,
Sure,
or?
I'll be out of town.
He'll be in Florida.
okay.
Okay, now what's your comment?
My concern is that we forecast out our assessment, proposed assessment increase, so that we don't have to come back to the membership for another minimum of 3 to 5 years, which means sometimes forecasting isn't always exact, but we have to do something. We can't keep coming back for a bite at the apple. People won't approve it, and we're going to be where we are today. So I know you've heard me say this before, and I keep saying it because it is a true concern.
Well, that's the goal, but if we sit down and put numbers together and something like that's to where we're assuring ourselves we don't have to come back in 3 to 5 years is something kind of outrageous, then I would have the fear that we'd never get that sold. So I think there's got to be a balance.
Yeah.
The MAG committee is meeting on Sunday before the Super Bowl. So if we meet on Tuesday, we may have some information from them too.
I'll try and get something to you. We're going to kind of beat around some different ideas on Sunday, and we have a preliminary draft proposal that we're working on. It would be nice if, once we kind of tried to poke holes in it, maybe even sit down with Jim Sigafus and see what he thinks about, just get his opinion, since he kind of does the budgeting, right? Or the budget, works on the budget.
Yeah. He does a lot of, well, that spreadsheet that Ginger shared with all of you,
Yes,
he didn't do that one, I did.
you did that one, okay.
But he does a lot of our budget stuff, yes.
But possibly we could,
Yeah.
two of us could
Well, I
all
think
get
if you-
together and just kind of go over some details and,
What about, are you down here full time?
no.
I didn't think so. You're all the way up the other side of Columbus normally, aren't you? We'd love to have Annie or somebody representing that committee at the budget meeting when we're sitting around next Tuesday throwing stuff. Basically, that's a spitball type thing where,
Okay.
we're gonna look at different spreadsheets and
Okay,
throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks kind of thing.
we'll see
So-
what we can get for it together
Yeah.
for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick comment, to echo what Linda said. I think if you take a motto of stop the bleeding, you very likely could get it to pass right now. The problem is if you stop the bleeding, the patient's still sick. And that's what I think we have to think about, because I'm not sure if you came back 2 years after that and said, now we need more, that you're gonna get that. I think you gotta kind of strike while the iron is hot. I think it's hot right now. So you have a better chance today of saying, let's get healthy, rather than let's not die. And I think the communication campaign needs to be a more positive message about health, rather than let's not be sick right now.
I like that. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
We need to figure out a way to get this kind of attendance in all of our meetings.
Do a better job.
We have more regular attendance than the last chair, just teasing.
He's got to schedule Article 9 to get any attendance in the
Fair enough.
Okay,
Yes to the point.
At this point, I quit. I'm done.
February 4th,
You won.
7 here. Is that where we
Yeah.
That's okay. And if you'll be at the night meeting Sunday, and so will Dave, if you guys want to ask, Dave, if you want to come down, we'd love to have you, but that's quite.
On Tuesday?
That's a lot to ask.
Is that when it is
Yeah,
Tuesday?
yeah.
We'll get
If not,
somebody.
then Annie or somebody.
I'll let you know.
Somebody.
Thank you.
If I can make it. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, that's what I wanted to discuss on the assessment increase. Security timeline.
Basically, you asked me to let you know when what is happening. They're planning on their cut will be, February 9th. Randall has put together a very difficult schedule, and, he plans on, fulfilling that, that's the end of the pay period, the 9th, Monday morning, is when the new schedule will start. I can run copies of that for you if you'd like me to, because it was a difficult kind of thing, trying to get everything covered that we wanted, that we had to get covered. There's not a whole lot of room there for adjustment. He did all different kinds of schedules, and this is the only thing he was able to come up with the personnel that we're going to have in order to cover the things we need to cover. We will be only having one guard scheduled on a night shift, which is 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., but that's 5 days a week. The weekends will still be covered by 2 guards on that shift.
Actually, the version of the schedule that he gave you and you made me a copy of today, there'll only be 1 guard from noon midnight to 6.
Yeah.
Not the 10, he's got an overlap.
Well, then just that one day that's in the lab.
Okay, well, it's, now we're gonna look tomorrow, by the way, at that option of seeing if people wanna donate money to a fund to pay the guards.
Paperwork is an article for one for everyone.
There's one,
If that will work, then there won't be a layoff February 9th. But as it stands right now, that's the drop dead date.
What would the process for that be? Are they allowed to give money to you? Yeah.
And that's-
They can't give it, I have no idea. I mean, it's just, have set up a separate account. It's a
Yeah, we'd have to-
committee, it's just-
Yeah, I have no idea.
It's not that easy.
Well,
Same kind of mind
Quickly.
Well, that's when he put that on Facebook, and I saw it, the gears, they slipped a little, but then when they caught him, that logistics could be right
Sounds
there.
great, but,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if it's given to the club, we can put it in an account, we can track it.
Okay,
Well, the office staff needs to, what kind of time is Randy and his two gonna have affording to track funds coming in, because we're definitely gonna have to track them so we know what's going on, so there's no question.
Yeah.
That's an extra workload for you guys.
Well, it'd be an extra account.
We'll have to look at it.
It's worth looking at.
It is very much worth looking at. So that handles the security timeline. By the way, to quell some of the fears, what little bit of research could be done without spending hours and hours and hours looking through incident reports. The feeling is that from midnight till 6 in the morning, that over the period of about a year, there's probably only been about 12 instances where EMS or fire had to be escorted from the front gate in. So that's round figure once a month. So it's not like that front gate would be open 6 nights a week, or 6 hours, 5 nights a week, all the time. It probably wouldn't be open hardly at all. And then there's the other piece, which most of you heard in the first meeting, which is Greg kind of spearheaded up asking members of management committee and board if they would volunteer to be on a call list, to where if Scotty gets a call and the EMS is going to be there in 20 minutes at the front gate, and he turns around and he calls Krieger, and Krieger jumps on his side-by-side and runs down there and mans the gate for the 20 or 30 minutes that the guard is running up to handle it. And actually, Eric is already on an emergency call list for the front gate anyways.
And there's several others too.
Yeah. So, if this funding thing can't be worked out to keep the guards, and we have to continue with the layoffs, it's not the end of the earth. Okay. Any questions on that?
No, sir. I volunteered too, so
I know you
I have no question.
Although I'm thinking, how long was it gonna take him to get to that front gate?
He'll have to drive outside the hill.
You had to meet him there at the Enchanted Forest gate.
That's what I'm saying, that's what I said. Backside, we'll just cover them at the gate, let security stay at
There
the
you
gate.
go.
That would work.
That would work, well, as long as you know where to take them. Moving right along.
Oh, I got GPS.
There you go.
I'll take my wife.
Smoking at the clubhouse. This was brought up, vetted, worked through a few months ago, and here was the results. There's some people asking again about making the back deck at the clubhouse non-smoking. And it is not against the law to smoke on that back deck. We got a hold of the lady at the Hocking County Health Department, and she actually came up here and met us, took pictures, looked at the deck, the configuration, 2 walls, roof, floor, and left. Said, I want to go back and run it by some people, and we'll email you. Well, she got back there, and first off, there's been a comment going around that, there's no smoking allowed within 25 feet of a door. That may have been a rule at one time, it's not anymore. It is not an Ohio State rule. But Hocking County Health Department kicked it upstairs to the Ohio State Ohio Health Department. State Ohio Health Department looked at the pictures, looked at all the notes from the young lady who was here, and said, it is not a violation if you allow smoking there. It's just that simple. We can, the law is written that we can have an internal rule, law, whatever you want to call it. It wouldn't be a code. There is a difference. Making that a non-smoking, no smoking area. When we addressed this, what was it, September, October-ish, somewhere back in there, the determination of the management committee was we weren't going there. We weren't going to write a rule. We weren't going to poke the bear. There really wasn't any reason to. There was no legal reason to. And that's where that one got dropped. Since then, there's been comments that some people feel that one of the outdoor covered areas, the back deck or the shelter, should be non-smoking, so non-smokers have somewhere to go outdoors to have their drink, eat their sandwich or whatever, without people sitting there blowing smoke in their face. That's why it's being brought back up.
Particularly with the lodge closed.
Yeah, that's why it's being brought back up. And I presented to the three of you.
Okay, this is a good point for my question, so I get an official answer. In trying to support the lodge, I bought $700 and maybe $800
That's
worth
on
of gift
down.
cards.
It's on
down? Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
I'm
now's
thinking,
not a good
I
time.
don't want to have to use them at the clubhouse because it's different type of food. There's no specialties. There's no ability really to eat outside because both areas are smoking. And it is very much a bar atmosphere.
Okay,
That's my piece.
thank you.
Are you asking for our opinion?
Yes.
My opinion is that we should offer one area to smoke. Being a covered area makes a lot of sense to me. I've heard a lot of people commenting that they don't eat there because infiltration happens. I've experienced it too. I suggest the rule be that smoking is only available at one of the two locations, so someone that is a non-smoker can eat outside and enjoy the environment. So my personal opinion, and I would be willing to vote, is that the deck becomes non-smoking. Which would help both areas.
I would sort of look at it the other way around, only due to the fact that if people are going to sit outside, the kiosk area is wide open.
The shelter?
The shelter is wide open. So therefore, I mean, there are going to be some golfers that smoke on the golf course. And I don't know if that's going to affect the people out there or not, but I think there are probably, and this is just my guess, that there are more people that smoke than want to take their food out of the clubhouse to eat. I could be wrong, but that would be.
So there's more people that smoke.
So what are you saying?
Not.
Not
Switch it.
smoking, yeah.
Switch it.
Not to be, against you. I'm
No,
just saying the other way
no.
around.
I'm just trying to understand your proposal.
That there would be, the people who want to take their stuff out would go out to the shelter.
So, no smoking in the shelter house?
No smoking in the shelter house.
It's not gonna go well with the men's golf league.
But they can smoke on the course, they just can't smoke on the shelter.
I'm just telling you the way it is, JJ. There are also people that wanna hang around for hours after the round.
What's
None
that?
of my friends go there because it's smoky, you can't stand it. You can't be outside and enjoy yourself.
Well, there's infiltration, as Dan said, too, into the clubhouse from the deck, in the door.
That is a violation there.
But that was actually,
Now,
we mentioned that to the
I don't think so.
young lady from Hocking County when we met with her.
Is there still infiltration? I'm not a smoker, but is there still infiltration the way the door's set up now?
Yeah.
Still?
So the smoke's
what I-
coming all the way around into the, that's what's being
That's
said.
what people have recently told me, their feelings, and that's why they don't do it. I would like to be able to go out and eat with my kids outside, and I can't. I'm a reformed smoker. I'm not trying to change people's habits. I'm just saying, let's be fair to the whole community, and
the smoke is very thick on that deck,
so.
very thick. You can't get away from it.
Yeah, Dave.
I think there was an issue brought up at the last management meeting, a request for temporary smoking on the deck here at the lodge.
That was at the board meeting.
Or at the board meeting, okay. And it was, I would just like to see consistency. I think the issue of the smoke coming in is probably the number one issue. So the further you get away from the patrons inside, it would allow golfers to smoke at the pavilion. It would also allow folks to go out and have a cigarette or enjoy a cigarette after their meal without infringing on others. Having it right on the back deck, it's kind of dirty and nasty. You walk out there, you got overflowed ashtrays and just dirty ashtrays sitting on the table, and that's just my personal opinion. But I think consistency would be good.
Can people bring their drinks out to the pavilion?
Yes.
And smoke?
It's part
How
of
come they can't do it up there?
Because across the road, which is where the designated smoking area is, has not been added to the liquor footprint. But when this new deck is finished, we have to have them come out and approve that as part of the footprint, and at the same time, we could add across the road.
If I can add on that, you've got good business at the clubhouse. The people that are at that clubhouse, I'm a clubhouse guy, I'm there a lot. They're out there, they're smoking. I think that if you go and you ban smoking on that, you're gonna change the business at the clubhouse. I would imagine that if we looked at it closely, a big portion of our revenue comes from alcohol sales and in the evening. And there's a big chunk of those people that are using that as a smoking area when they need to. I'm concerned that by doing this, we're gonna be less user-friendly, less customer service friendly, and ruin that business that we currently have.
What do you think of making the shelter house non-smoking?
What if, the big golf league is Wednesday night, but it makes sense, because I would favor making the shelter house non-smoking, so people can take their family out. I understand, I'm not a smoker. But, I agree with Eric on the business of the lodge and the clientele at the lodge who are smokers. But if you made the pavilion non-smoking except for Wednesday night. And on Wednesday night, when you got a bunch of golfers out there, you wouldn't want to,
Except for when it's raining. Because there is another area out there next to the shelter house that has picnic tables. Just in all fairness.
What's the money figures for when that all was non-smoking out there? Is the lodge, the clubhouse been
When was that?
consistently, breaking even or getting close to breaking even or making money for how many ever years was non-smoking out there? What's the difference? You need to look at that, I think.
When did it happen?
It used to be non-smoking at one point.
Where?
We got the deck, right off the
Clubhouse deck
Yeah.
is non-smoking.
I don't ever.
For a while it was.
When did
Time I've been here, they've always been,
we talked about it, but I don't think it was ever implemented.
it was ever, at least I've been here only 10 years, but it's always been,
Always been smoking.
Yeah, boy, see, me
There was a
too.
period I remember, so. I don't know if that's some way you could compare apples to apples.
yeah, I don't,
Or clientele.
Well, it's interesting that this is the exact same argument and discussion that happened last month on the Board of Trustees, or the board meeting, and it was voted that, no, they would not permit temporary smoking on the lodge deck. But it seems that it's a 180 here because the same argument that the food committee was trying to say is it will increase the business for the lodge. And that was, it was a 3-3 vote, and I think, Jim, you made the deciding vote. So here we're talking, it'll increase food, or it might deter patrons, and yet
Well, the difference, Dave, I think, is that up here, the rule was already in place, it is no smoking. So that was.
In both of those locations at the clubhouse are smoking and have been for, I don't know, I've been here over 6 years.
Okay.
And it's always been smoking, so.
Yeah.
There's been the last couple of years, there's been a couple complaints come to us that wanted the back deck, no smoking, thinking it was illegal. And we looked at it. It's not.
You're right. Right. A business owner has the right.
Exactly.
To keep people 25 feet away, not an obligation.
That's correct.
What about no smoking till 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock?
And then it becomes a policing issue, and who's gonna watch it?
Yeah.
I'm not kicking you the shit, baby, I'm just saying.
I agree, I just threw it out there.
I mean, create a rule, who's gonna police it?
I think that's the same issue as the Wednesday night, saying, okay,
Yeah.
even though
It's
all the
okay
signs
now.
here at the shelter house say no smoking, wink, wink, it's Wednesday night golf league, you guys are allowed to smoke in here.
And lastly, although it is always been smoking, we now have a decision by management and the board to close the lodge. So you're pushing clientele there, and I think we need, as a club, to accommodate them as well.
What do you think?
I wouldn't change it. I'd leave smoking on the back deck at the clubhouse. It's a different clientele, and while I think there may be a few not disrespectful lodge people, I'm kind of a both people. So we eat up here at the lodge on the weekends. During the week, it's a quick meal for us at the clubhouse. I have not been bothered by the smokes out there, and generally by the time we get there at 7 o'clock in the evening, there's a pretty full packed house, of which most are in smoking on that, and I've not had an issue with it. If there's an issue with it, if it's coming in the door, we may look at a cheap option of a fan to make sure it pushes away and from the door so it's not blowing in, something like that possibly. But I don't think it's going to increase business at the clubhouse by having that no smoking.
So what about the shelter?
You make it non-smoking as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure the golfers on Wednesday night can step 10 feet away if they want to smoke and sit on their golf cart and have a beer and take a cigarette. We're hoping these are temporary things that we have to make, but I can't see, if we make that switch, does that mean when the lodge opens back up, we're going to switch it back so they can smoke there again? I don't know that it makes any sense to keep such problem.
We could. I would support making the shelter house non-smoking. I don't think it's, since we don't have the legal thing to stand on, I don't really want to start the fight with that group about the back deck.
It's not worth
I
it.
just don't want it.
There's no reason.
I like the idea. I mean, if we're gonna make something non-smoking to accommodate the families, the people bringing their grandkids, some of the people that are gonna come from, while this is closed upstairs up there, in good weather, there's the shelter house, and when it's not all that good of weather, if they're seating inside, I didn't sit in that first table right up there closest to the door, but I've not had the smoke migrate in. I've had people walk by me as they're coming back in from smoking, and it kind of rolls off of, but being an ex-smoker, I kind of understand that. I'm okay with making the shelter house non-smoking.
Just before we do that, I will switch my vote over to that, but what do you think about the clubhouse folks? What would their impression be of that? And don't we watch football and stuff out there?
Yeah, put up the TV and watch it out there in the fall for football games and.
You can watch it inside too.
No, guys, I just think we should be equitable, and that's what I'm trying to do, so.
Are there that many complaints on smoke at the clubhouse? I mean, because if there aren't, why are we changing it?
Because, well, I just told you what I've heard is
Yeah.
several people have, especially recently, have come up to me and said they won't go to the clubhouse because of the smoke.
Especially now with the lodge closed, more will be going to the clubhouse.
Well, we hope so, but that really, if I remember correctly, I don't think that was the case when the lodge shut down for the fire. I don't know that we got that much more business at the clubhouse. Little bit, because I went up there a couple times. So if that's the concern, I mean, we have a
History.
Thank you, that's not the word I was, but yeah, I mean, we've got a history of knowing, well, we probably are not gonna have the lodge people going there. And would we be disrupting by any changes, disrupting the business that we have right now?
And the people who might not want to go there, saying they're not going to go there because of smoke, they might not know about the new door set. They haven't been going there.
What does everybody else think?
I'm just sitting here thinking, if you talk about a family, bringing people to eat there, not just drink, but to eat. What you're sort of suggesting is the family, the kids and everybody have to carry their food out to the shelter house if they want to be outside. The smokers probably have a cigarette and a drink, which is a whole lot easier to go out to the shelter house with that than people carrying food, and then you've got trash out there. If you have to make one or the other, it seems to make sense to me that you would have closest to the dining area non-smoking and outside smoking.
Well, we don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Actually, can I make a recommendation?
Yes.
That we postpone this for a couple of months because we're making a lot of changes and the community could probably use a chance to think about it and comment on it and
Get used to the change.
and get used to some other changes before we make this change.
Let's table it.
I'm okay with that.
And nobody's gonna wanna eat outside right now anyways. At either place. Table until.
We'll all agree.
First meeting in March?
A little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
When do the meetings start?
Is that a late April? I think that's a late
I
April.
think in March will be fine.
Yeah, okay. That's what we'll do with that one. Moving, okay. Lodge smoking options. We don't even need to discuss that one. That one could be taken off. There was some background on why that was presented to the.
yeah, I personally.
The board that doesn't even apply now, so.
Can I just comment on it, because I didn't get a chance to comment on them before it went to the board, is, my opinion is, for everyone we pick up because of it, we'll lose, because walking in a cold environment out and in just doesn't sound very comforting to me if I were sitting one of the rare tables sometimes, but I just don't think it's a great idea. So,
well, it's not gonna be tested now.
Just a request, because time's getting late. Can we move the restaurant gift cards up above the restaurant space usage, since they're both restaurant related topics?
Sure.
Just for you.
Sure. There's been questions about the restaurant gift cards, usage of, or what, now that the lodge is suspended. 2 points. Number one, they are good at the clubhouse. And secondly, the restaurant or the lodge is suspended and will be opening back up. We've kind of started trying to think through some of the process if we decided to give people back their money for a card. Well, here's a problem with that. There's no way that we can tell if that card was the one you paid for or the one you got free. In other words, if you bought $100 worth, you got $10 free this year, $20 free last year if you got some of the old ones. If you come walking in with a card We don't know if it's the one you paid for or not. There's no designation on that card. So that's kind of where we are on those. Yes.
I don't know if this was done on all of them, but in my particular case, I did 500, and they literally did them in 5 $100 increments, and then I got 5 $10 cards. And I don't know that they ran everybody's like that. I didn't ask them to, it's just the way they did it. But if they did do everyone that way, then they're all traceable.
I can add to that. I tried to buy another card the other day with Chris, and she said that she was on the phone with customer service because they had a maximum of $100 at the clubhouse. Did you buy yours in the clubhouse or at the lodge?
No, at the lodge.
She told me about that. She was still trying to find out what happened.
Yeah.
It was not a maximum that we put on. It was something that the card.
Well, and I bought $500 in December, so what happened, I don't know either, but.
I don't know how yours came out, but mine came out the same as Laura.
Yeah.
So maybe we should find out if someone got $1,000,
Yeah.
on one card versus 10 $100.
Unfortunately, I ran through that $500 already.
No refund. No refund for you.
And that's your no drink January.
No, we'll push that to February now.
Well, at this moment, we're not refunding for them. Because you can use them at the clubhouse, and like I said, we're gonna open it back up, hopefully sooner than later. We did a little research into, am I trying to get a hold of you?
No.
Did a little research. The office has no way, if, this is a big if, we were to go to the point of giving refunds, it would have to be done probably at the lodge, because the office staff has no way to scan that card and tell you what value's on it. So it would have to run out the lodge. It would have to be down at the clubhouse, I mean, because they have the equipment, they can scan it and tell you what's left on it. But we haven't made that decision yet, and I'm leaning towards not, but that's my 2 cents on it.
Again, I'd wait and see how many requests we get for it. That would be a judgment. Again, we want to work with our members if we can,
and if we go with the.
I mean, what is your feeling? Are you looking to get it back? Or you
I'm
willing to
not, but I think it's just a question that, I know a lot of people will lay down, $1,000, $1,500, and they're probably not gonna spend that at the clubhouse on food.
Jim, do you know how much we sold in December?
But not near as much as the year before, because certain individuals didn't step up and buy it.
December month right there.
Yeah. We can tell you what we've sold in December, Eric, but we have no clue what we have outstanding.
Right.
For.
$2,080.
Was all.
So.
Well, that's not out of the clubhouse, I'm sorry.
Year to date.
$3,460.
Are you looking at the year to date?
No, it's December.
So
a total of 5 something, Randy, or?
Yeah.
Why don't you go to the year to date? Sorry, I just.
Yeah, $5,183 gift card sales at the restaurant.
Okay, what's the largest year to date?
At the restaurant. That was it.
I mean, the clubhouse, I'm sorry.
Clubhouse year to date, gift card sales, $3,420.
So a cash outlay of $8,500.
500 of that's gone.
Okay, 8,000. Thanks.
Okay, so we're below 8,000.
Usually a lot of it gets used in the first couple of months. So, but again, we don't know, so. Except for somebody's buying.
For food, usually, or is it alcohol? Or,
That's personal.
it's all alcohol. She's not on campus. The reason I'm asking is because if we open the bar back up upstairs here in 2 or 3 weeks, and it's not closed, I'm wondering how much of that would,
Right.
you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
Okay.
I think it's something we should table and see if that would transpire.
I think a look at that, how much was broken up.
Yeah.
I don't see how we can say no particularly, but I think we need feedback from the membership.
Might not go very far.
Been married long enough to understand.
Yeah, oh, very much so. And one who, in particular, was pretty adamant that he won't use it down at the clubhouse is gonna be in Florida for a month, so. We'll see what happens upstairs in a
You can
month.
leave the cards behind.
He could, we could use them.
Yes, yes.
I need more.
You won't pay 50 cents on the dollar.
All right, we're gonna do a little more research on this and see what we gotta do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Restaurant space usage.
I've had several people come and ask me if the restaurant, if they could use the space for parties, I mean, similar to renting this area down here. Why couldn't they rent the restaurant space? And I said, well, you wouldn't be able to use the kitchen, but I don't see any reason why we couldn't rent that restaurant space. Similar to what we do down here. I mean, if they wanted a cash bar, we could probably do that similar to what we do down here. We could charge a fee. And so that's just a question for you folks, if we could start doing that, if somebody wasn't. I had a couple who aren't here tonight ask about they were going to have a 90th birthday gig in March, and would like to know if they could use the restaurant for that.
Limits it down who they're
I think another issue along with that is whether or not they can use have catering. But we haven't allowed catering, a rule against catering, but now that the restaurant is closed, would that be something we would think about opening back up?
Well, I think there's no reason why we couldn't rent that space out.
I think we need to come up with a cost too.
Yeah.
But I don't think it should be the same as the great room is.
Oh, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I've never felt that they were sufficient anyways.
So we could run beverages through our bar?
Well, it's a
I think we're gonna get into, we need to think about this a little bit more.
I'm just asking a question.
No, and I'm trying to answer you, is if our computer system, for instance, which you would need, and our credit card, payment system, all of that could be being discontinued. So, or knowledge of using those systems we're gonna lose some of that very shortly. So I'm a little concerned of how do we facilitate a bar.
That situation would be if the bars are still open upstairs, then we'd have access to the computer. I mean, if we keep the bar open.
I understand.
If the bar is closed, then it's closed. And if somebody wants to rent the restaurant area, they can rent the restaurant area. And I don't have a problem with that. I think the next step is, do we want to allow caterers? As long as the restaurant upstairs, the kitchen is closed, do we want to allow somebody that's renting down here, because it's going to be an issue, because they can't get their food through us now. And upstairs, will they be able to bring a caterer in?
And bring liquor in?
No.
I don't think we can do that.
See, that was my point.
That's what I believe also.
That way the beverage service would still go through us.
We need to talk about the whole pot.
Well, you can always bring a clubhouse person up here too, to run the bar.
As long as the systems are gonna be running, and who's that expert that's gonna maintain it? That's all I'm trying to say.
We need to look into it.
We really do.
But I think to me, it's feasible to rent the space out. That space being rented out generating some revenue is better than sitting there collecting dust.
Yeah, I would concur.
And with the current situation, with it temporarily being closed down, I think is an alternative to members who would want to have a party or a wedding gathering or a family reunion to be able to use that space because it is nicer space than this one.
Well,
It
yeah,
has merit to look at.
I think we could probably go ahead and agree that we can rent out upstairs if the restaurant closes. The other steps, we probably got to think about a little bit more, but the one that's in March.
Well, they haven't scheduled it. If they came to me with the question first, if there's a possibility that
they could rent, would they want to cater?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I know who it is, not just.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Did you think about it?
Did they believe the caterer needs the use of the kitchen?
Oh, that would be a no.
Okay, yeah, I would agree.
Prepare food in, set up, and everything they bring, they take with them.
Yeah.
And clean up and all of those.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, or we're gonna charge a custodian fee or something to be able to collect the trash.
What do they charge for the rental of the grape?
$150.
And they get back?
Get back 100. So we only charge $50 for that.
And it's set up that way because it's considered an amenity.
Yeah.
And all we're doing is basically paying for the cleanup fee.
Correct.
Okay.
No, they're supposed to clean up.
Well, they are supposed to clean up.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
at
if
some
they don't.
point, depending on if they do or
But
don't.
then you still, you're kind of charging so that your housekeeper can.
Yeah.
Well, to make it be non-zero too.
If they don't clean up adequately, they don't get their deposit back.
What would you suggest for upstairs?
$300.
Giving them back how much?
Nothing.
Okay.
We had a situation like this where I used to work in one of our buildings, it was an acre park. And we really limited it, but the people that came in, we had to first get a list of caterers that we approved. It wasn't just any caterer that they wanted to, we had a list of approved caterers. We set up our own bar at the time, we had to get the liquor license for that night, things like that. So that wouldn't be an issue here. But I think one of the things, even if we turned around and opened the lodge back up and something was scheduled, would it be a big issue if we turned around and said the lodge is closed tonight because of the previous event that was already booked when we shut down?
We've done that.
We just did it.
We just did, and we've done it once, and it, I can't recall a lot of complaints, but it would be a problem here if on a Saturday night in the future when we were on a normal club lodge event, if somebody wanted to rent the place, because I would.
The only time we've done this in the last 10 years was one of the long-term member here, who was a graduate of a local high school. They asked if they could rent the lodge for a significant amount of money for their graduate high school reunion. We had plenty of lead time. The amount of money we generated was very significant, so we took the time. We did allow them. We also had several members who were also had graduated from that program. So what we did was counter-program something at the clubhouse and let people know at least 2 months ahead of time what was going on. There were a few people who were surprised, unfortunately, and disappointed, but for the most part, that worked. But that's the only time I know of it.
There's been 2 in the last year. One was when we were,
modified schedule.
We had different hours. We were closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays or whatever it was. And a month, we're closed on Tuesdays. Somebody comes in, schedules a big deal up here on a Tuesday night a month from now. Brandon, put the whole deal together, got signed contracts or whatever we did. And then all of a sudden we decided to go back to the old schedule and we just announced, we got it out as soon as we were announcing the schedule, basically this one Tuesday night, sorry, this is prior commitment, we're moving on. And I didn't hear anything negative on that. The one that we got some negative feedback on was a beer tasting, I think. that you had to have tickets, and it was from like 3:30 to 5:30, no, it was about 5 to 7.
Right.
Type hours, and that's the only people that were allowed in. They had to pre-purchase a ticket for this beer tasting, and some of the feedback was that that's not fair to the members to, and they could still get in, they just have to go in the bar because the beer tasting was out in the restaurant, but there was some negative feedback because that's our restaurant. We really, you shouldn't be able to keep us from coming in.
In our current situation, we would surely have at least 3 months, maybe more, of this is our drop dead date, grand reopening, here we
I have
are.
no problem
I think
with
we can,
lots.
I think we can manage that.
And I don't have a problem with $300.
Well, I think that, I said that without thinking, I think that probably should run past the food service committee, see what they thought about how much to charge for that.
I mean, you can't base it off what a normal lodge rental would be or something like that locally, because we do have humidity fees and things with members, so.
Right.
It wouldn't hurt to get more input from them, I think there would be no harm.
I mean, that was my thought off the top of my head, that,
Is that only for people in the Hills members? Or is it?
well, that's another discussion, whether or not we would
I think
allow
it ought to
non-members.
be attached.
We
to
got
it.
a food services meeting next
Tuesday.
But you just kind of skipped that program.
No. No, it is.
You're right. You're right.
Don't you do that to me.
I'm leading the blind here tonight, come on.
Pretty
now.
close. It's, next Wednesday night, the 5th. So let me just take that, put that on our agenda for that, and we'll talk to them about it.
Yeah, I think we should also double check some lease or rental opportunities for other places, just to get a cross idea
There's
on.
like 300 more, if you're not giving them anything back. So
Especially if it's a member.
I don't disagree, but we need the money.
So we're gonna take that on as a large revenue stream, right?
Well.
We could price ourselves out.
Okay. Right, yeah. All right.
It's a flip of the coin.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a couple restaurants in a couple of the towns that have some rooms that they rent out, and I'd like to ask
Yeah.
that kind of.
Back rooms kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Very
You
good.
got anything else for the agenda?
No, sir.
The thing that you and I discussed,
Yeah.
for the, especially the Echo version of how the numbers will go out,
Yeah.
as Annie is really looking at that and got a couple ideas on what's gonna be put out there instead of what's been put out there, and it includes those funds and how we are today or whatever, and funding amenities or whatever list of 5 or whatever we give. So that's being worked on. Do you have anything else? Thanks, Pat.
See you later, Brian.
The volunteer that we had, I sent you an email about it. The volunteer that wants to help the committee with Excel and.
Yeah. Okay.
You're not in favor?
I don't know. It's one of those deals like that budgeting and doing the numbers should be handled internally in this committee. But if we don't think we have somebody that can do that, then.
Well, we said the office people couldn't do it, and, I just think we got a volunteer to allow, that can do some work. I just think why are we turning away a volunteer? That's a
What are we
member.
gonna give them to do?
Penny would have to generate some reports out of the system or give this guy some access to the system. He could dump out all the history into an Excel and, why don't we do it this way? I'll design the report and somebody can populate it. What I'm talking about is something easier for us to manage both the lodge and our discussions. People ask questions all the time, and we have to go get the right month and then add 5 months to it, and it's just an easy way of doing it. I just think when we have a resource, why are we saying no?
I didn't say no.
Okay, I'm just bringing it up. Sorry, I'm a little.
I would want feedback from you.
If somebody's willing to do the work, I just think it's worth
Well,
doing.
it's long-term, one of my things that, again, you talk to some people and things like this, and I think from what I've been on, as long as I've been on, and heard you guys talk about budgets and numbers, and you shuffle the papers, and even guys that have been dealing with it are saying, this isn't lining up, and we kind of have to do this. If we get flush with cash, maybe we look at a new operating system software thing that becomes more apparent, easier to generate reports, making it easier for the office staff and things like this. And I know that stuff does not come cheap, so that's down the road. But as we watch our budgets and we have to really keep ourselves in check, I think the more information we can see readily available, it might pay like a lot of dividends to us on it. I mean, my interest is not that I doubt what maintenance does, but I would like to know where we're spending money on things too. I mean, it's inquisitive minds.
Sure, no.
And we're in a point right now where we're trying to be a lot more transparent. Right now, what we have, the common person, I myself included, don't understand all these reports either.
Well, there's also, possibly this guy, with Penny's help, could do some magic on those numbers, because there's different ways that those numbers can be taken out of the system. And right now, it seems the only way that we get them is pretty much in a PDF file, which you can't do anything. You can't populate it, you can try to, but they can also get them out of there in an Excel file, and then you can have somebody like the guy that sent the email to us take them and build.
She usually gets them from me in Excel.
Yeah, here's what I'm
Is it on the
talking.
POS system, or are we talking about QuickBooks?
It's out of QuickBooks, and you can Excel it out, and then you get 12 XLs. And all I'm talking about is somebody putting them together in a format that gives you a whole year or the last 5 years.
This guy, the member volunteered, that's his background. He does magic, pardon me?
Crunches numbers.
Crunches numbers and does magic with database sheets. And he's willing to take them and create more usable reports, to Dan's point. And
why not, we could look at something on a limited basis. I mean, we got a budget we're playing with, or we have an old budget, let him take last year's budget and see what he can spit numbers out
I
of
think
us.
what we do is this is just, we get him to come in and sit down with us.
Sure.
And
I know it's hard to believe, Dan, but I'm actually agreeing with you on this one.
No,
Because I want an easier read report.
I've had to deal with the documents as they've come out. I've asked for changes to be made, and we've made some of them, but we don't do them all. And this is not a negative on Penny. Penny's got a whole lot of things to do. And what I'm trying to say is, take a resource that's volunteered and fix a few of these things. And, to your point, I get asked a lot, what did we spend on this then? Well, here's the Excel.
It's in there somewhere.
Can I just make a comment on that? That's a perfect example of what you just said. This guy, if he would be willing to do it, he's qualified. As a member, I think that's a great asset. For example, when you look at our budgeting worksheet that was at the last meeting, it shows our depreciation fund and our capital fund in brackets as a negative, because we didn't fund them properly.
Right.
But when it comes to the actual amount of funding that we have in those accounts, I sent out an email today. I'm like, I've looked through our website, I've looked through every place to find those numbers. Where's it at? And then finally it was like, oh, it's emailed to you every time before management meeting. I'm like, oh, well, I didn't think to look on email to find those numbers out. So, I mean, to be able to have a report where the average Joe or myself could go out and look at it, and if I had that question, would be a great asset.
All right, let's reach out, I'll reach out to him and see if he can come in next meeting.
Having you, we should not leave unexplored, that's for sure.
Correct. Okay. Anything else?
I do have pricing on, I asked about because just on the bidding aspect of it. And I told Randy I do have on supplies for the golf course. I do have pricing back. I've got a pretty strong pricing structure. I've got some good ideas. Some of the specialty fertility and things, we have our own division doing that stuff. So they're still working on some of that pricing availability, which there isn't any there. But I think there's a cost savings there for consideration. I'm not getting anything for it. I'm just bidding the process out. And we can get bids from other companies too. You go strictly online and there's huge savings. But if you have a problem, a delivery issue like this, you don't have a person to talk to. It's cash and carry, it's all yours. So I think dealing with a company has very many, has a lot of merit. So I will get that email to you. I just wrote it out without reading.
Okay. I got one little thing that we need to talk about in executive session. So.
Okay, Dad.
All right, I have one thing to say before you do that.
Okay.
And it's just, so we usually go to the lodge, we used to go to the lodge always, and even this week. About 2 times a week. If we're not at the lodge, we're getting to go. If I had known, because I work in downtown Columbus, so my commute home sometimes is an hour and a half. The last thing I want to do is get in the car and drive 20 minutes to Lancaster to go out to eat. I will not go to the clubhouse because there's a clientele that's always there, that always kind of like flow over into everywhere. And they're the same clientele that vote down the assessment increase. And so, and if there's more than 15 people there, the place is slammed anyway. I waited an hour and 45 minutes when I showed up one day, thought I was gonna have a beer, and ordered 2 salads with fried chicken on them. I waited an hour and 45 minutes. So I can go and drive to Lancaster, sit down and eat, and come back and still be less than an hour and 45 minutes. But if I had known more about if in 4 months from now, we don't meet this number, we will have to close the lodge, I would have stopped cooking at home every single night that the lodge was open. But I had no knowledge that we were ever going to do that. And I'm pretty sure I'm not by myself on that one, because I know there are quite a few of us that drive into Columbus and back. So what I would ask, if anything and any kind of changes like that ever happen again, you forecast them sooner, even if it's you're being cautious by saying, here's a date that by this point in time, we have to know where we are, and if we aren't at this number, these things are gonna happen. Because that might have changed how things happen for the lodge. But you had a large congregation of people who sit at the clubhouse and slam it all the time. I got in an argument with one of them on Facebook when Chris said, I've lived here 13 years, and been there 10 times. I said, well, clearly you haven't been there lately because the food's very good, the service is good, and then I get the answer back, no. And I said, then maybe you shouldn't be talking right now.
Thanks for that comment, bud.
So anyway, but likewise, from a strategic standpoint, we closed the place that majority of the people that come here voted for the assessment increase. We kept open the place where there's the whole clique, and I can name off names, because you see them all the time on Facebook and everywhere, that go there, they're there every night, and we have one new membership meeting a year, and now the only place for them to go is the clubhouse, where their minds can be poisoned by those that already have decided they're never gonna vote for another assessment increase. So that would be my only caution to you with all of that stuff. And you know what, if you piss them off I hate the smoke, but if you piss them off with the smoking, then just gonna give them more, crap to bitch about.
Could I just say one thing without getting
I'm
into?
tired of all of them.
Could I respond to your question
Yeah,
or your
yeah.
statement? And by the way,
Melissa Hennon.
Melissa, nice to meet you. I'm Dan Donovan. Boy, do I hear you. The communicating that the lodge will close or might have closed, just so you know, in my opinion, if we had done that in any way, we would not have had the lodge staff any longer. We would have lost them with that implied threat, if you will. I hear you though.
When people are involved, it was very difficult. for
I'm
the
sure
whole
it was.
piece. And at this point, I mean, they'd be out looking for jobs because we all need to have a job.
I'm actually surprised we're still functioning right now.
And he has his class, his post that he put out on the website.
Well written.
Yes.
And my family owns a place in DuBois, Pennsylvania, it's Treasure Lake. It is twice the size of this place. It has 92 miles of road. It has a ski lodge that was also the slope built on the wrong side to keep snow on the slope when the sun shines. It may have been built by the same people that built this place.
Sometimes you wonder.
It has 2 PGA 18-hole golf courses, PGA rated 18-hole golf courses. It has a pool. They went through these growing pains way back. Now, but the difference is they were able to charge some fees for some things. And ultimately, if you own a place on the water and your dock, the lake is not yours. That assessment for that place is, I think, $30 or $40 more for the year for property, because you now have something out, because my family they have 2 lakes. They have 2 big lakes.
Oh,
A 9.5 horsepower motor lake and a speedboat lake, and it has a marina. They even have a fire station.
Gotcha. I understand.
But so if you have, and we have a place on the 9.5 horsepower motor lake, we have to pay extra for that lot. Not the second lot, but the lot that has the dock that reaches out in the water. You get 4 car stickers or passes. After that, you pay $10 per pass. They have a campground. They had also like condos that people had bought.
Yeah.
They sold those off. The condos got sold off to timeshare. The campground they still keep. They had 2 lodges, one really large one that they primarily use just for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and weddings and stuff. But then they had the ski lodge, kind of the same thing on the ski hill. They rented that out to somebody who then kept it as his business, but didn't keep any upkeep on the place, let the place run into the ground. And a year and a half ago, they had to close that place, and now it's so beyond code, they probably have to tear it down. Property values plummeted.
Yeah.
So all of the things that people are freaking out about, I've already seen happen at another place that my family owns. So, but I think they had a better way out because they weren't stuck by that 100% rule. And they were able to do some things. They used to have a horse stable. They sold the stable off to some private company. And they brought in, and they ended up bringing in a management company for somebody who ran the whole place. And he made some hard decisions based on what he ended up having to do. But it's almost like I'm hearing things like 3 years later here, if that makes any sense. But
Yeah, you shared that at a
I did,
assessment.
yeah.
Upstairs.
But yeah, so when I see
And
people
unfortunately,
say,
not many
oh,
people-
rent
not
the
enough
lodge
people
out,
listen.
rent the lodge out to somebody, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
I've seen it not work. You guys saw it not work when you had it before, that way.
And that's a big realization for us too. We realized, we did the survey, we found out how many people wanted this place. But unfortunately, those people didn't sit down in those seats and support like they said they wanted to.
Well, I don't think.
If we would have, then
But I
we
can
would have this
honestly tell
discussion.
you, I don't think any of us ever expected that we wouldn't have it. And that would have made a decision, because then I wouldn't have been planning meals several days a week, and we would have always, whether it was to go or come here, we would have always been here when it was open. Because the whole reason we moved here full-time, I mean, first of all, we were here for 4 years, part-time. I don't think we would have ever bought here if there wasn't a lodge. And then I sure as heck would not have sold my house in Westerville and moved here full-time 2 years ago if I knew the lodge was gonna close.
And I think it's not that we didn't anticipate it. A lot of us feel almost like it was a blind side. Like, I mean, we knew the financials we know we need money, or a lot of us know that the club needs more money. You can't collect 1.5 and pay your people 1.3 and then try and maintain 33 miles of roads and X number of buildings. But, you know, if you go back, I would ask you to go back and look at your own writings in the ECHO. I mean, it's not to throw you under the bus, but, you know, it was like, look at the deck, look at the large deck. This is gonna bring great things to the amphitheater this season, and this is just December or November's ECHO. So for it to be all of a sudden cut and dry, that this is it, and I understand what you said and why you did it.
Yeah.
Or made those decisions.
But there might have been just enough that you wouldn't have had to make the decision you made.
And again, it goes back to me asking tonight, if we have the opportunity to reappropriate those funds, it would be nice to at least keep it Thursday, Friday, Saturday for a month and give us a chance to see if we can bring enough support in to operate at a net neutral.
Those are valid points. I'm glad you brought them up.
So, thanks.
That's all we can do now.
That's fine, thanks.
Thanks, folks. Thanks for defending the meeting on the